So at the Battle of Gettysburg, a single regiment from North Carolina lost 90% of its men in just one afternoon. But today, a U.S. soldier who makes it to a hospital alive has a 98% chance of surviving.
Yeah, that is a massive, massive shift.
It really is. And welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is unpacking this comprehensive historical analysis of how U.S. military casualties have completely transformed. Going from a shared national tragedy to this highly isolated, politically charged metric.
Right, it's a completely different landscape now.
Exactly. So, okay, let's unpack this. Think of historical casualty rates as a grim national lottery. In the past, almost every community in the country held a ticket to that lottery.
But today, only a microscopic fraction of society even plays the game. And grasping how that lottery changed, well, that's the key to understanding how America wages war right now.
So to really see the math here, you have to look at the Civil War. Mass mobilization meant that casualties devastated local communities instantly.
Right, that war killed over 2% of the entire U.S. population.
2%. And contrast that with post-9/11 conflicts, which impacted less than 0.01% of the public. The burden of warfare has shifted entirely onto this insular volunteer warrior class.
It has. It's a total demographic shift.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second. We went from losing massive chunks of the population to almost zero. So isn't isolating the danger to a tiny, willing volunteer force like the ultimate victory for society?
Well, you'd naturally think so, sure. But what's fascinating here is what sociologists call military exceptionalism.
Okay, what does that mean exactly?
It means when 99.9% of the country has zero skin in the game, it makes it terrifyingly easy for the broader civilian populace to just ignore foreign conflicts.
Oh, wow, because it doesn't affect them directly.
Exactly. The tragedy isn't a shared civic experience anymore. It's effectively outsourced.
Right, so we have exponentially fewer people fighting, but this drastic drop in casualty demographics is also a direct result of how those few are actually surviving.
Yeah. Because historically, microscopic pathogens like dysentery or typhus, they wiped out way more soldiers than bullets ever did.
That is so wild to think about.
It really is. But as modern medicine conquered those diseases, the lethality of weapons evolved. So in recent conflicts, the primary threats were improvised explosive devices.
Right, IEDs.
Yeah, IEDs, which cause incredibly complex amputations and blast traumas.
Yeah.
To counter this, the military revolutionized its approach by mastering tactical combat casualty care and the golden hour.
Okay, break that down for me, because those definitely sound like buzzwords. What is actually happening on the ground there?
Well, instead of just scooping up wounded soldiers and racing them to a hospital hours away, the military pushed life-saving interventions right onto the battlefield.
Like what kind of interventions?
Things like advanced tourniquets and whole blood transfusions, that's tactical combat casualty care. If medics can stabilize a soldier within that critical first 60 minutes, that's the golden hour survival race. Skyrocket to that 98% figure you mentioned earlier.
Oh, okay. Here's where it gets really interesting. It's a lot like surviving a catastrophic car crash because of modern airbags.
That's a great analogy, actually.
Right. You lived, which is an absolute miracle.
Yeah.
But you are trading immediate death for decades of complex physical therapy. We've effectively solved acute battlefield mortality, but in doing so, we've created a massive burden of survivability.
Yes, a lifetime of highly specialized VA rehabilitative care. And, there's a darker side to that survival rate, too.
Which is what?
Well, because we're saving service members from catastrophic physical blasts that would have unequivocally killed them 50 years ago, we are bringing them home with profound, inventable psychological and neurological trauma.
Which brings us to how we process the wounds we cannot see. The data in our sources shows that active duty Army suicides now actually outpace hostile deaths.
It's devastating. And the medical framing of this trauma took a really long time to catch up.
Yeah, during the Civil War, didn't doctors literally think soldiers were just deeply homesick?
They did. What's fascinating here is they diagnosed severe trauma as nostalgia. They genuinely operated under the belief that missing your family was causing these physical breakdowns.
Wow.
Yeah, it took until after the Vietnam War for the medical community to look at the brain's actual mechanics and codify it as post-traumatic stress disorder.
And how the American public tolerates all this suffering is heavily controlled by the media lens. Like, think about Alexander Gardner's shocking photos of unburied corpses at Antietam.
Right. Those images completely shattered the romantic illusions of war for the public.
Exactly. And later, Vietnam became this unrestricted living room war that fueled widespread public revulsion. But today, the 24-hour news cycle gives us coverage that is highly embedded and sanitized.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, public tolerance for casualties isn't based on raw numbers at all. It's incredibly elastic.
How so?
It depends almost entirely on the perceived strategic success of a mission and the rhetoric of political elites. When the visual framing is sanitized, it makes it significantly easier to sustain public support for a conflict.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Think about that sanitized newsfeed you scroll through every day. The footage is sterile, the casualties are low.
Right. And it really begs the question, does that media diet make you, as a voter, more willing to tolerate foreign interventions because you rarely have to see their true cost?
Exactly. Because how a nation measures, treats, and memorializes its fallen directly dictates the future of its foreign policy.
The public's detachment is profound. It really changes the calculus of war.
Which leaves us with a provocative thought for you to explore on your own. As the military transitions toward automated drone warfare and artificial intelligence on the battlefield, how will a nation memorialize a conflict where the only casualties are machines?
That is a fascinating question.
And if no one is holding a ticket to that grim national lottery anymore, will that ultimately erase our final hesitations about initiating war?